Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Learning at Home. Today we are going to learn about a new mathematical concept, decimals. This video is an introductory one which will help you to understand what are decimals and how to read and write decimal numbers. But before you start watching this video, kindly do subscribe to Learning at Home to learn about more such mathematical concepts. So, without further delay, let us begin. Before we understand decimals, let us first learn about an interesting concept of fractions, which is decimal fraction. Here, as you all can see, the box is divided into 10 equal parts, out of which 3 parts are colored, which means the shaded region represents a fraction 3 by 10. Now, let us look at another box, which is divided into 100 equal parts, of which 27 are shaded or colored. So the shaded region represents 27 by 100. Similarly, if 358 out of 1000 parts are shaded, then we can write the shaded region or the fraction as 358 by 1000. So the fractions 3 by 10, 27 by 100 and 358 by 1000 are termed as decimal fractions. Let us now look at the definition of decimal fraction to understand this concept more clearly. Thus, a fraction whose denominator is either 10, 100 or 1000 is called a decimal fraction. Examples of some decimal fractions are 5 by 10, 11 by 100 and 2584 by 1000. So, how do we represent these decimal fractions as decimal? It's very simple. When we write these decimal fractions using a decimal point, that is a dot, then they are called decimal numbers or simply decimals. Examples of some decimal numbers are 0.5, 0.11 and 2.584. These decimal numbers can also be called as 0.5, 0.11 and 2.584. Let us now look at a few examples to understand how to convert decimal fractions into decimal numbers. The first example here shown is 5 by 10. We can see that the numerator 5 is lesser than the denominator 10. So we first write the number 5, which is written as a numerator. Then count the number of digits in the denominator. Since 10 has 2 digits and the number in the numerator 5 has only 1 digit, so we add a 0 to the left of the digit 5. Next, we will count one place starting from the right to place the decimal point, as there is only 1 0 in the denominator. Thus, we get the answer as 0.5 or 0.5. Let us look at another fraction, that is 11 by 100. Here we can see that the numerator 11 is lesser than the denominator 100. So we first write the number 11 and then count the number of digits in the denominator. Since 100 has 3 digits and the number in the numerator 11 has only 2 digits, so we add a 0 to the left of the digit 11. Next, we will count 2 places starting from the right to place the decimal point, as there are only 2 zeros in the denominator, Thus, we get the answer as 0.11 or 0.11. We look at the third example where we have got a decimal fraction as 2584 by 1000. So our first step will be to write the numerator, that is 2584. Next, we will count 3 places starting from the right to place the decimal point, as there are 3 zeros in the denominator. Thus, we get our answer as 2.584 or 2.584. The third fraction, that is 2584 by 1000, was converted into a decimal number 2.584. Such decimal fractions are divided into 2 parts. The first part, which is a whole number part, that is 2, and the second part, that is a decimal part, which is to the right of the decimal point, that is 584. As we can clearly see here that the number of digits in the decimal part, that is 584, is equal to the number of zeros given in the denominator of that decimal fraction, which is 1000. Let us now understand another interesting term of decimals, which is decimal place. Decimal places represents the number of digits in the decimal part. Let us understand this concept with few examples. The first example, 3.2, has 1 digit in the decimal part. So 3.2 has 1 decimal place. The next example, 15.07, has 2 digits in the decimal part. So 15.07 has 2 decimal places. Likewise, the third example, 0.239, has 3 digits in the decimal part. So 0.239 has 3 decimal places. Now let us learn how to represent a decimal number on a place value chart. So for that, let us first know how a place value chart of a decimal number looks like. So starting from the left, we have the hundreds, tens and ones place, which is to the left of the decimal point. So they represent the whole number part. To the right of the decimal point, we have the decimal parts. So immediately after the decimal point, we have the tens place, next the hundredths, and lastly the thousandths place. So now, since we have understood the place value chart of a decimal number, let us now look at an example, that is 758.239. So we will first write 7 under the hundreds place, 5 under tens, and 8 under ones place. Then we will put a decimal point. After the decimal point, we have the digit 2, which we are going to write under the tens place. Next, the digit 3 will be written under the hundredths place. And lastly, we have the digit 9 written under the thousandths place. As we by now know that a decimal number is divided into 2 parts. Firstly, the whole number part and the decimal part. So here 7, 5 and 8 represents the whole number part, and 2, 3 and 9 represents the decimal part. Both these parts are separated by a decimal point. Since we now know how to represent a decimal number on a place value chart, let us now learn how to read and write decimal numbers. Let us look at the first example, 25.2. where 25 belongs to the whole number part, so we write 25 in words. The decimal point can be represented as AND in words. We have 2 after the decimal point, which represents the decimal part, and 2 is in the tens place, so we can read 2 tenths. So 25 decimal 2 can be read as 25 and 2 tenths. The second example is 9.63. 9 is to the left of the decimal point, so we read it as 9, decimal point as AND. Since 6 and 3 are to the right of the decimal point and 6 is in the tenths and 3 is in the hundredths place, so it can be read as 63 hundredths. So the number 9.63 can be read as 9 and 63 hundredths. The third example is 320.004. Since the number 320 is to the left of the decimal point, so it can be read as 320. The decimal point can be read as and since 4 is to the right of the decimal point and it is in the thousands place, so it can be read as 4 thousandths. So our third example, 320.4 can be read as 320 and 4 thousandths. The fourth example is 0.17. Since there is no whole number part here, so we directly go to the decimal part where we have 1 under the tens place and 7 under the hundredths place. So this number can be read as 17 hundredths. Since we have understood quite a few concepts or terms of decimals, let us look at some sums which we generally find in the textbook and try to solve them. The first sum says, write in words the following numbers. The first number is 0.4. Since there is no whole number part here, so we directly go to the decimal part which has 4 in the tens place. So we can write this number as 4 tenths. The second number is 12.73. Here 12 is the whole number part and we have 73 in the decimal part, where 7 is in the tens place and 3 in the hundredths place. So this number can be written in words as 12 and 73 hundredths. Let us look at the third example, which is 4.059. Now, since 4 is in the whole number part and we have 5, 3 in the decimal part, where 0 is in the tens place, 5 in the hundredths and 9 in the thousands place. So we can write this in words as 4 and 59 thousandths. Let us now move on to the second question, which says write the following in decimal form, that is as decimal numbers. The first question can be read as 4 tenths. Since there is no whole number part here, so we will simply write 0 in its place. Next we will put the decimal point and write 4 in the tens place. Therefore 4 tenths in decimal form can be written as 0.4. Next we have 12 hundredths. That is, we have 1 in the tens and 2 in the hundredths place. Since there is no whole number part, so we will simply write 0. Next we will put the decimal point and we will then write 1 in the tens place and 2 in the hundredths place. So 12 hundredths in decimal form can be written as 0.12. The third question can be read as 110 thousandths, which means we have 1 in the tens place, again another 1 in the hundreds, and 0 in the thousands place. Since there is no whole number part, so we will simply write 0 on its place. Next, we will write the decimal point, and then we will write 1 in the tens, again 1 in the hundreds, and lastly 0 in the thousands place. So 110 thousandths in decimal form can be written as 0.110. The fourth and the last question is 12 and 5 hundredths. Since we have 12 as a whole number part, so we will first write 12. We will put the decimal point instead of and then we have 5 hundredths. So we will write 0 in the tens place and 5 in the hundredths place. So 12 and 5 hundredths in decimal form can be written as 12.05. Let us now look at the third question, which says write the following in decimal form, that is in decimal numbers. The first number we can see is in decimal fractions. So we will have to convert a decimal fraction into decimal number. So the first step will be to write the number which is in the numerator, that is 5. Next, we will count the number of digits in the denominator. Since we have 2 digits in the denominator and only 1 in the numerator, so we will simply add a 0 to the left of 5. Next, we will count 1 place from the right and put the decimal point, as there is only 1 0 in the denominator. Therefore, the decimal fraction 5 by 10 can be written in decimal form as 0.5. The next decimal fraction is 57 by 1000. Since here the denominator is greater than the numerator, so we will first write the numerator 57. Next, we will count the number of digits in the denominator. Since we have 4 digits in the denominator and only 2 in the numerator, so we will simply add 2 more zeros to the left of 57. Next, we will count 3 places from the right and put the decimal point, as there are 3 zeros in the denominator. Therefore, the decimal fraction 57 by 1000 can be written in decimal form as 0.057. The third sum is a mixed fraction. So at first we will have to convert this into an improper fraction or a decimal fraction. How do we do that? We have already learned that. We will first multiply 71 into 100 and then add 11 to the product. So we finally get our decimal fraction as 7111 by 100. Now is the time to convert this into the decimal form. Since the numerator is greater than the denominator, so we will simply write the numerator. Then we will count the number of zeros which are there in the denominator. Since there are 2 zeros, so we will simply put the decimal point counting 2 places from the right. So 7111 by 100 can be written in decimal form as 71.11. The next question tells us to write the following as decimal fractions. As we can see that we have been given a decimal number which needs to be converted to a decimal fraction. The first decimal number given is 0.6. So the first step is to write the numerator as 6, then count the number of decimal places, that is number of digits after the decimal point. Since here there is only 1 digit after the decimal point, so in the denominator we will write 10 because 10 has 1 0. The second number is 0.51. So our first step will be to write 51 as a numerator. Then we will count the number of digits after the decimal point. Here in this number we have 2 digits after the decimal point. So in the denominator we will write 100 because 100 has 2 zeros. Now let us understand how to find out the place value of a digit of a given decimal number. Let us read the question written on the screen. It says, write the numbers in place value chart and find the place value of the colored digit in each case. So at first, we need to draw the columns of the place value chart. So the first column, starting from the left side, is the tens. Next we have ones. Then we have the column which has decimal point. The next column after the decimal point is tenths, then hundreds, and lastly thousands. Let us now look at the first number, which is 3.25. So let's first place the digit under the correct columns. We write 3 in ones place, then we put a decimal point in the next column. The next digit after the decimal point is 2, which we write under the tens place, and the last digit 5 under the hundreds place. Since 2 is the colored digit, so the place value of 2 in 3.25 is 2 tenths, or we can also write the place value of 2 as 0.2. Let us look at the next number, which is 4.608. So we first write the digit 4 under the ones column. Next we put the decimal point. After decimal we have the digit 6, so we write it under the tens place. Next the 0 in the hundreds column, and the last digit 8 under the thousands column. So the colored digit in this number is 8. So the place value of 8 in 4.608 is 8 thousandths. Let us now understand the last concept of decimals of today's video, which is expanded form of decimals. So with the help of some examples, we are going to understand how to write the expanded form of a decimal number. Let us begin with example 1, that is 5.3, where we have digit 5 before the decimal point, that is the whole number part, and digit 3 after the decimal point, so it belongs to the decimal part. The digit 5 is in the ones place, so while expanding, we will write 5. Then since 3 is in the tenths place and is after the decimal point, so we will put a plus sign and write 3 by 10. Since 3 by 10 is a decimal fraction form, so we need to write our answer in the decimal form. So in the next step, we will write 5 as 5 and then write 3 by 10 as 0.3. As 0.3 is the decimal form of 3 by 10. Therefore, the expanded form of 5.3 is 5 plus 0.3. Let us look at the second example, 10.05. So we start with the digit 1, which is on the left. Since 1 is in the tens place, so in the expanded form, we write 10. The next digit in the ones place is 0, so we write the same, that is 0. The next digit is also 0, which is after the decimal point and is in the tens place. So we write it as 10 by 0 by 10. And the last digit, which is 5, is in the hundredths place and is after the decimal point. So we put a plus sign and we write 5 by 100. Next, we have to convert the decimal fractions into decimal numbers or decimal forms. So we write the expanded form as 10 plus 0.05. As you can see in the final answer, we have not written the numbers which have zero on it. We look at the third example, that is 41 decimal 206. We start with the digit on the left, that is 4. Since 4 is in the tens place and is before the decimal point, so we write 40. We give a plus sign and we write the next digit, that is 1, which is in the ones place. The next digit after 1 is 2, which is in the tens place and is after the decimal point. So we put a plus sign and we write 2 by 10. After 2 we have 0, so we write 0 by 100 because it is in the hundredths place. And last digit, that is 6, which is in the thousandths place and it is after the decimal point, so we write plus 6 by 1000. Now since we have here decimal fractions and we need to convert them into decimal forms, so our next answer will be to write 40 plus 1, as we are keeping the expanded forms before the decimal point as it is, then plus 2 by 10 after converting it into decimal form becomes 0.2. Next, we are omitting the decimal fraction 0 by 100 and we are writing the next, which is 0.006. That is the decimal fraction of 6 by 1000 is converted into decimal form and we get the answer as 0.006. So, the expanded form of 41.206 is 40 plus 1 plus 0.2 plus 0.006. Now that we have understood how to write the expanded form of a decimal number, let us now quickly understand how to do the vice versa, that is, convert an expanded form into a decimal form. Let us now read the question which is written on the screen. The question says, write the following in short form. The first number is 10 plus 2 plus 0.1 plus 0.03, which is in the expanded form. The first step will be to convert the decimal forms of 0.1 and 0.03 into decimal fractions. So we write 10 plus 2 as exactly given in the question, as they both belong to the whole number part. Next we put the plus sign and we write 0.1 as 1 by 10 and 0.03 as 3 by 100. After this, we will have to now write the short form, that is the form of decimal numbers. The first number, that is 10, is in the tens place. So we write 1. Then the next digit 2 is in the ones place. So we write 2 after that. After 2 we have 1 by 10. That means it belongs to the decimal part. So the digit 1 will be written after the decimal point. The last digit 3 belongs to the hundredths place and is after the decimal point. So we write 3 after 1. So the short form of the question 10 plus 2 plus 0.1 plus 0.03 is 12 decimal 13. Let us look at the second question, which is 30 plus 5 plus 0.2 plus 0.06. So at first we will have to convert the decimal forms of 0.2 and 0.006 into decimal fractions. So we first write 30 plus 5 exactly as they both belong to the whole number part. Then we convert 0.2 into the decimal fraction where we get 2 by 10. Then we put the plus sign and we write the next decimal fraction as 6 by 1000. Why 1000 and not 100? Because 0.006 has 3 digits after the decimal point. So since it has 3 digits after the decimal point, so the denominator will have 3 zeros. Now we will have to write the short form. So the first number 30 belongs to the tens place. So we first write 3. The next number 5 belongs to the ones place. So we write 5. Then the next fraction is 2 by 10 and it belongs to the decimal part. So we first put a decimal point after 5 and then we write the digit 2. After 2 by 10, we do not have the hundreds place. So we write 0 under the hundreds place. And then we write the next digit 6 in the thousands place. So, I end our today's video on introduction of decimals here. I hope you have understood the concepts well. If you think you have understood the concepts which have been taught in today's video, do give a thumbs up by clicking on the like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Learning at Home and press the bell icon so that you get notification whenever I post any such educational videos. So keep watching and stay safe.